I need to talk about something I've never really discussed in detail before. And to do that, I have to be completely honest with you. For years, I used to feel like a complete financial failure. I'm talking about that specific feeling, that knot in your stomach when an unexpected bill shows up, the quiet, creeping panic that wakes you up at 3 a.m, the shame you feel when you decline an invitation, not because you don't want to go, but because you just can't. I know what it's like to work hard, to see that paycheck land in your account, and then feel like you're just watching sand slip through your fingers. It feels like you're running on a treadmill. You're putting in all the effort, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but the scenery never ever changes. And the worst part is how lonely it is. You start to believe the story that something is just wrong with you, that you lack willpower, or that you're just not one of those people who are good with money. I lived with that voice in my head for a long, long time. But what if I told you that voice is lying? What if I told you that your struggle isn't a character flaw? It's not about being weak or irresponsible. It's about your brain's wiring, a deeply ingrained pattern that can be understood, and more importantly, can be rewritten. What if I told you that hidden inside your mind, there is a reset button? A way to interrupt the exhausting cycle of stress, impulse, and regret, allowing you to start building a new financial reality for yourself, one small decision at a time. Stay with me, because in this video, I'm not just going to tell you that this button exists. I'm going to show you exactly how to find it and how to use it. And the very first step is to understand the invisible prison that's been holding you captive, because it's probably not what you think it is. The invisible prison, the neuroscience of your debt. To find that reset button, we first have to understand the machine we're trying to fix. And that machine is your brain. Specifically, your brain when it's under the constant pressure of debt. See, when you're perpetually worried about money, your brain doesn't register it as a simple inconvenience, like a traffic jam. It registers it as a genuine threat to your survival. And whenever your brain perceives a threat, it does what it's designed to do. It floods your system with a powerful chemical called cortisol. This is your body's primary stress hormone. Think of it as your internal alarm system. A little bit of it is useful. It helps you wake up in the morning and gives you a burst of energy in an emergency. But when you're living with debt, that alarm isn't just ringing for a moment. It's on, all day, every day. It's that low, constant hum of anxiety in the background of your life. That's the feeling of chronic cortisol. And this chemical bath does two profoundly damaging things to your financial health. First, it physically impairs the most evolved part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the area right behind your forehead, responsible for long-term planning, logical reasoning, and impulse control. It's the CEO of your mind. But when cortisol levels are constantly high, it's like the CEO is trying to write a business plan while a fire alarm is blaring in the office. It can't think straight. It struggles to make wise, future-oriented decisions because its entire focus narrows to just surviving the immediate threat. This is why, when you're deeply stressed about money, the thought of creating a complex budget or a 5-year investment plan feels completely overwhelming. Your brain is chemically handicapped. Second, and this is the gear that locks the prison door, your brain desperately seeks relief from this painful state of stress. It craves a way to feel good, even if it's just for a fleeting moment. And it knows a very quick, very reliable way to get that relief, a hit of another chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the molecule of reward and motivation. You get a spike of it when you eat a delicious meal, when you get a like on your social media post, and most powerfully for our discussion, when you buy something new. That add to cart button? That's a dopamine button. The anticipation of a package arriving at your door? Pure dopamine. So here is the invisible prison, the loop you've been trapped in. The cortisol from your debt creates a painful, anxious state. Your brain, seeking an escape, pushes you toward a quick dopamine hit. An impulsive purchase provides that hit, and for a glorious minute, the anxiety fades. You feel a flicker of pleasure, of control. But then, the dopamine wears off, and the reality of the new, bigger bill sets in. This, in turn, makes your financial situation even more stressful, which floods your system with even more cortisol, and the cycle begins again. Cortisol seeks dopamine. More cortisol seeks more dopamine. it's not a cycle of irresponsibility. It's a biological loop, a survival mechanism that has been hijacked by the modern world. You've been trying to fight this battle with willpower, thinking the problem was your character. But you're not fighting a personal failing. You're fighting your own brain chemistry. And the moment you truly understand that, you can stop blaming yourself and start using the right tools to break the cycle. Because telling someone in this state to just try harder isn't just unhelpful. It actually makes the problem worse. And that's what we need to talk about next. The willpower lie. Why trying harder makes it worse. So, if the problem is a biological loop, why is the most common advice you hear always about your character? You've heard it a million times, maybe from well-meaning family, or maybe just from that critical voice in your own head. You just need to be more disciplined. You have to have more willpower. Just stop spending so much. It's always said as if willpower is this infinite magical virtue that you are simply choosing not to use. This is single-handedly the biggest and most destructive lie in personal finance, and we need to expose it for what it is. Your willpower is not a moral trait. It is a finite neurological resource. The best way to think about it is like the battery on your smartphone. Every single decision you make throughout the day, no matter how small, drains a little bit of that battery. They still have plenty of charge left in the tank to make a wise, long-term choice, like cooking at home instead of ordering expensive takeout. But if you are living with the chronic stress of debt, you are not starting the day at 100%. That constant cortisol drip we just talked about is like having 20 power-hungry apps running in the background from the moment you open your eyes. Your mental battery is already being drained before you've even had your first cup of coffee. You're forced to make dozens of extra high-stakes financial calculations all day long. Can I really afford this? If I pay this bill now, will I have enough for groceries on Friday? What's a polite way to say no to that dinner invitation? By 5 p.m., their phone battery might be at 60%, but your mental battery is already in the red. It's at 5%. And then, in that moment of complete mental exhaustion, you are faced with a temptation. A perfectly targeted ad on your feed for something that promises to make you feel good. The convenience of a drive-thru on your commute home when you're too tired to even think about cooking. At that point, you don't have the cognitive energy, the willpower, left to fight. Your brain, depleted and still desperately seeking that dopamine relief from the cortisol, will take the path of least resistance. It will choose the immediate reward over the abstract long-term goal. And when you inevitably do, you don't see it as a predictable outcome of mental exhaustion. You see it as yet another personal failure. You blame yourself, which only increases your stress, which drains your battery even faster tomorrow. It is a vicious downward spiral, powered entirely by a misunderstanding of how your mind actually operates. So please, hear this loud and clear. You are not weak. You are depleted. You have been trying to win a chemical war using a strategy, just trying harder, that was rigged to fail from the start. The solution isn't to magically summon more willpower from thin air. The solution is to change the game, to build simple systems that work with your brain's limitations, not against them. Systems that don't require a fully charged battery to be effective. And that is exactly what the reset button is. It's not about forcing yourself. It's about outsmarting the old, broken system. And I'm about to show you exactly what that looks like. Finding the reset button. A new way to think. All right, we've cleared the rubble of the old, broken ideas. We know the problem isn't a flaw in your character. It's a chemical loop in your brain. And we know the solution isn't more willpower, because your mental battery is already depleted. So, what is the solution? It's this concept of a reset button. Now, this isn't a literal physical button. It's a mental model. It's a completely new way of operating that allows you to step outside of that cortisol dopamine cycle and finally regain control. This reset button has two critical functions that work together like a 1-2 punch. The first is called the pattern interrupt, and the second is cognitive rewiring. Let's break them down. First, the pattern interrupt. Think about your most stubborn habits, especially your spending habits. They run on a deeply ingrained script in your brain. It follows a simple loop: trigger, routine, reward. For example, the trigger is feeling bored and scrolling on your phone. The routine is clicking over to Amazon or another online store. The reward is the dopamine hit of finding something you like and adding it to your cart. This script is so automatic, so well practiced, that you run it without even thinking. You are on autopilot. A pattern interrupt is a tiny, deliberate, pre-planned action that you insert between the trigger and the routine. Its only job is to snap you out of that autopilot mode, to jolt your conscious mind back online. Think of it as a circuit breaker for your brain. For example, let's use that bored scrolling trigger. The moment you realize you're doing it, your pattern interrupt could be to immediately close your eyes, take one slow, deep breath, and hold it for 3 seconds. It sounds almost laughably simple, doesn't it? But neurologically, it's profoundly powerful. That simple, unexpected action breaks the hypnotic rhythm of the old habit. It doesn't magically solve your financial problems, but it creates something you haven't had before: a pause. It carves out a tiny space of awareness. And in that space, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, has a precious few seconds to come back online and ask, wait a minute, what am I actually doing right now? What do I really want? In that moment, you've moved from being a passenger in your own life to being back in the driver's seat. But interrupting the old pattern is only half the battle. If you don't replace the old routine with a new one, your brain will eventually find its way back to the old, familiar path. This is where the second function of our reset button is essential: cognitive rewiring. Cognitive rewiring is the conscious process of building a new road in your brain. Neuroscientists have a famous saying: neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you perform an action or think a thought, you strengthen the physical neural pathway for that action or thought. The reason your bad habits are so strong is because that neural pathway is an 8-lane superhighway. Your brain takes that road by default because it's easy and efficient. Our goal is to build a new competing highway right alongside it. So after you've used your pattern interrupt, after you've taken that one deep breath, you now have a choice. And in that moment of choice, you deliberately perform a new positive action. It has to be something small, almost microscopic. Maybe you open your banking app just to look at your savings goal. Maybe you transfer a single dollar into your savings account. Maybe you open a notes app and write down one financial goal. The first time you do this, it will feel awkward and forced. The new road in your brain is just a faint dirt path through a dense forest. But the next day, you feel the trigger, you use the interrupt, and you choose the new action again. That dirt path gets a little wider. You do it 10 times, it becomes a gravel road. You do it 100 times, and you've paved it. You have built a new neural superhighway. Eventually, this new positive behavior becomes the default. It becomes the easier, more automatic path for your brain to take. You have literally rewired your brain's response to your triggers. You didn't do it with shame or with brute force. You did it with strategy, patience, and a deep understanding of how you're actually designed. This is how you escape the prison, not by trying to break down the thick walls, but by simply building a new door and walking through it over and over again. Now you understand the theory. Let's turn it into a concrete, practical protocol that you can start using the second this video ends. The 3-step financial reset protocol, the how-to. You understand the why behind the struggle and the how of the solution. Now it's time for the what. This is the 3-step financial reset protocol. This is not a budget. It is not a spreadsheet. It is a mental training exercise. I want you to commit to trying this gently and without self-judgment for just 1 week. Step 1. The Awareness Audit. For the next 3 days, I don't want you to change a single thing about your spending. Let me repeat that. Do not try to change anything. Your only job is to become a detective of your own mind. We need to identify your specific triggers. Get a small notebook, or even better, open a new note on your phone. Every single time you spend money on something that isn't an absolute necessity, like your rent, a utility bill, or essential groceries, I want you to pause for a moment, right after the purchase, and write down 2 things. First, what was the feeling right before you spent the money? Not the feeling during or after, but the one that pushed you to act. Was it stress from a work email? Was it boredom while waiting in line? Was it loneliness while scrolling through perfectly curated lives on social media? Be honest. Be specific. Second, what was the purchase? a fancy coffee, an item from an online ad, a takeout meal you didn't really need. That's it. There is zero guilt or shame allowed in this step. You are simply a scientist gathering data. At the end of these 3 days, I promise you will have a clear, undeniable map of your personal spending patterns. Most people are shocked to find that 80% of their impulsive spending comes from just 2 or 3 recurring emotional triggers. Knowing your enemy is half the battle. Step 2, the pause and ask, interrupt. Now that you know your triggers, you can set a trap for them. This is your practical pattern interrupt. I want you to take out your phone right now, seriously, right now, and create a lock screen image with one simple question written on it. Or write it on a sticky note and physically wrap it around your primary credit or debit card. The question is this: does this action build the future I want, or does it keep me in the past I'm trying to escape? Why this specific question? Because asking, "Can I afford this?" is a losing game. Your stressed brain is a master rationalizer. It can always justify it. But this question is different. It's not about numbers, it's about your identity. It forces a connection between this tiny, present moment action and your long-term vision for your life. It elevates the choice from a simple transaction to a statement about who you are and who you are choosing to become. The next time you feel one of your known triggers, the stress, the boredom, the loneliness, and you feel that familiar urge, your only job is to pause. Look at the question. Read it out loud if you're alone. This is the circuit breaker. This is what creates that precious 3-second window of conscious awareness. Step 3, the reward swap, the self-compassion step. This is the most critical step, and it's the one that most people miss. After you've paused and you've made the difficult, powerful choice not to spend, you cannot just leave your brain hanging. It was expecting a dopamine reward, and if you deny it completely, it will feel like punishment. This makes it much harder to succeed the next time. We have to be smarter. We have to swap the reward. We must give the brain a different, healthier hit of dopamine. Create what I call a dopamine menu, a short list of small, free, positive actions you can take immediately after winning that small battle. Your list will be personal, but here are some ideas to get you started. Open your banking app and transfer a single dollar, just $1, to your savings account. Physically watch the balance go up. Feel the pride in that action. Pull up a photo on your phone that makes you genuinely smile. A loved one, a pet, a favorite memory. Cue up your personal power song and listen to it for 60 seconds, really feeling the energy. Send a quick positive text message to a friend or family member. The act of giving provides a powerful emotional boost. Read your #1 financial goal out loud. I am becoming debt-free. This is not about restriction. This is an act of profound self-compassion. You are listening to your brain's legitimate need for a reward and gently, kindly giving it a better one. You are learning to parent your own mind. Every time you complete a reward swap, you are physically building and paving that new neural highway. You are teaching your brain on a chemical level that making a smart choice feels better than the fleeting high of an impulsive purchase. This 3-step protocol, audit, ask, and swap, is your reset button in action. It's the practical tool that will take you from being a victim of your brain chemistry to being its architect. Your first 30 days of freedom. The challenge. So, what happens now? You have the protocol, you have the knowledge. The only thing that bridges the gap between the person you are today and the person you want to become is action. But I want to be perfectly clear about what action looks like in the real world. Your first 30 days using this protocol will be messy. You will not be perfect. There will be days where you forget to use the interrupt. There will be moments where you feel a trigger, you pause, you ask the question, and you give in anyway. This is not a failure. This is data. This is part of the process. Remember, we are rewiring years, maybe decades of programming. The goal isn't a flawless record. The goal is simply to have more wins this week than you did last week. To help you get started right now, I want to issue a challenge. The 30-day reset challenge. There are 3 levels. Be honest with yourself and choose the one that feels challenging, but genuinely achievable for you right now. Level 1 is the observer. For the next 30 days, your only mission is to master step 1 of the protocol. Don't even focus on stopping the spending. Just become an expert at noticing and logging your emotional triggers. That's it. Awareness, in and of itself, is a monumental victory. Level 2 is the practitioner. Here you commit to using the full 3-step protocol: audit, ask, and swap, as often as you possibly can. Your goal isn't perfection. Your goal is to get one win each day. Just one moment where you successfully use the reward swap instead of an impulsive purchase. One win a day for 30 days means you've laid 30 new paving stones on your new neural highway. Level 3 is the architect. You do everything in level 2, with one powerful addition. At the end of each week, identify the cost of one or two of the biggest purchases you successfully avoided, and you immediately transfer that exact amount of money into a dedicated savings account or use it to make an extra payment towards your highest interest debt. This makes your progress tangible. You're not just avoiding a negative, you are actively, physically building your positive future. Choose your level. Declare it in the comments below to make a commitment to yourself and to this community. I'm starting level 1, I'm in for level 2, or challenge accepted level 3. Slight pause, shift in tone to be very direct and heartfelt. We started this video with me telling you that I used to feel like a financial failure. That feeling comes from the toxic belief that your past decisions must define your future reality. But every piece of modern science and every comeback story you've ever heard proves that this is a lie. You are not your debt. You are not your past mistakes. You are not the anxiety that you feel at 3 in the morning. Those are just clouds. They are not the sky. You are the sky. You are the person who watched this entire video, seeking knowledge. You are the person who now understands the very chemistry of your own mind. And you are the person who is now holding the exact tools you need to become the architect of your own rescue. The journey starts now, not with a mountain of shame or willpower, but with a single, compassionate choice. And then another. And then another. You have this. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Share your wins, your struggles, and your progress in the comments. We're all in this together now.